Hi. Okay, so I was journaling today and I wanted to share a couple reflections that I was having while journaling. I was talking a little bit about how I've been able to work through some clutter and like an old drawer that I'm like reorganizing. And I wrote, I feel like I'm getting my mind and environment in a good place. And then I was like, hasn't that always been the goal? And I was reflecting on like years past, like when I lived in a completely different state, um, with an ex-partner and things like that. And yeah, and prior to that, like being at school and just going through like these different life chapters in my life, like hasn't that always been like this overarching goal, like to have like my mind and my environment in a good space? That way, like I'm free to kind of create and pursue different endeavors from like a grounded place, a grounded and healthy perspective. And then I wrote like to create safety, firm and solid and healthy foundation from which I can build. And I don't need to know what I'm building yet, just that I am building and capable of building. And that I'm a brilliant and worthy vessel, deserving of love and protection, even if it comes from me, especially if it comes from me. So then I kind of was like reflecting on this idea of like, why is it, thinking about like love, protection, provision, why is it like if I'm providing those things for myself, why is it that that feels like a little tiny bit less than, a little less exciting, less sexy, less fun than if I had like some potential partner, or someone else who was like providing these things for me. So then I go a bit further and I talk about how we grow up being cared for, and as infants, this is necessary. We're vulnerable physically and cognitively. We can't care for ourselves, thus we require care from others. And rarely is this care perfect, but it's care nonetheless. And I think in many ways, this kind of predisposes us to expect continued care and provision, even as we reach adulthood, where and when we can actually begin to care for ourselves. And once we've matured and grown physically, cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, and never in perfect form have we grown. We've always along the way, there are things that are impacting us and how we're developing, but we are maturing into adults nevertheless. But yeah, so I'd argue that in many ways, we're each best equipped to be our own best caretakers, best able and best suited to really slow down, be with ourselves, and what is this word that I wrote? Like really tune in. Tune was the word that I was like, what does this say? Really tune in to understand and ascertain what we need, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we often know ourselves best, especially when we allow ourselves to get to know ourselves better. So when we slow down and take the time to cultivate a relationship with self, and even maybe even like in absence of that, we may still know ourselves better than other people do, I'd argue, perhaps. But especially so if you've taken the time to really be with and get to know yourself. You absolutely know yourself better than anybody else in your life and anybody ever could. We have ourselves until the end. We're the only constant truly in our lives. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share these thoughts and broadly curious, like how other people have really been able to cultivate relationships with themselves and get to know themselves better. For me, I feel like this really didn't start until a handful of years ago. I don't feel like I was super conscious about my relationship with myself until I was. And it's just kind of built from there. I don't think I really was aware that I didn't know myself deeply until I got to know myself better. And the ways that I've begun to do that, I think it started very, very small and very, very simply. And it really just initially took the form of slowing down and starting to appreciate silence and allowing myself to make the environment quiet enough so that I could kind of tune in with myself. But the objective wasn't even to tune in with myself. I honestly don't even know why or how I started to practice this, but it really was just starting to go on walks when I lived back in North Carolina. And often, always, I would listen to like a podcast, music, whatever. I just always have something, right? I think a lot of us do that. And in this day and age, there's just always stimulus and always stuff happening. But I deviated from that and I was like, I'm just gonna pause on that. And so yeah, I just started to go for walks outside in nature without anything. And I would notice, like, I would have these little like reflections, these thoughts, these ideas, these questions that would come to me. I know I've heard other people express like having some of their best ideas in the shower, like where you're not constantly like on your phone. So yeah, I think when we allow ourselves to disconnect, like it's so interesting in that phrasing of like allow ourselves to disconnect from technology. I think it opens us up for connection with ourselves in ways that maybe we hadn't even realized we're missing out on before, at least in my experience. So yeah, slowing down, getting quiet has been a big one for me. Other little things have just been like cold exposure, so like turning the shower all the way cold at the end of the shower, cold plunges, lake swims when it's really cold, just like repeatedly and over time, like showing your body like it's okay to be exposed to something a little spooky, a little scary, a little frightening. But like once you do it, your body like warms up, and like there's a ton of like different health benefits on it as well. And I'm not an expert, so I won't speak deeply to it. I just have had the experiences I've had with it, and it's been really healing in a really lovely way to, again, kind of forcefully slow down, be present, be in the moment, realize like this is my physical body having this physical experience kind of a thing. Similarly to that is like meditation, like breath work is like going along with that. Really like grounding in the physical environment that you're in. And again, kind of like disconnecting from like all this technology, even though obviously like I'm recording this on a phone, but like as much as possible, like disconnecting from like the constant everything that goes on our phones, which is such a blessing and a curse. There's so much that we can do and access, but there's also so much that we can do and access and see and get exposed to, and it can really just kind of suck us in. And there's just a lot online. So I think trying to disconnect from that intentionally and use it as a tool intentionally at other times. But yeah, through that disconnection, like gaining such a valuable and sacred connection, like with self. And then the last one is not really a specific thing, but rather just kind of like openness. And I think this kind of goes along with the idea of things being like put in this bucket of being like woo-woo or out there. And I mean, even like further on that point is just the whole notion of like mental health and therapy and like how stigmatized that has become. Now I'm like trying to rein this in and have this point be consolidated, because I think I could talk at length about this, but I think just exercising a level of openness to the idea that I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know, and there may be things out there that I haven't learned about yet, and I don't know like if they would be helpful to me. Like the idea of a cold shower, a lot of people are like, oh, that sounds horrible. Or the idea of therapy, a lot of people are like, that is for not me, like insert whatever some people might say about that. Like there can be a lot of preconceived notions with some of these things, and I think it's interesting to get kind of curious about where might these things come from and why, and really just kind of tune in of like, like for me in my life and my body, like what might be like helpful, what might be a good resource. And I've greatly benefited from exercising a level of openness, obviously like safely, cautiously informed, but yeah, just kind of being open to trying different things, because I think it's far sillier to cast aside a whole idea of potential methodologies and tools that could work for you and be helpful for you. It feels far sillier to do that than to try something like breath work, meditation, tapping, like something that could on the surface look and feel silly. I would so much rather look and feel silly than to not try something that could be like largely helpful and help me reconnect with myself, with others, with nature, things that I think are like really important and really needed and have been like really beautifully healing for me. So anyways, just kind of some thoughts and reflections on the idea of getting my mind and environment in a good place, and how that's always kind of been the goal. And I think with that, I will continue my decluttering journey. But I wish you all a very beautiful Friday and a very beautiful weekend. And I hope you all stay very safe.